Kia ora, Oren. Welcome to the Nelson Pod. Great to have you here.
Good to be here.
We met, I think, probably 2 years ago at the Top of the South film competition, film festival. You've got an amazing story. I know you've told it a lot of times, but for all our listeners and viewers, can you tell us one more time about Paranormal Activity?
How many details?
Give me the broad brushstrokes.
Okay, well, generally speaking, I decided in around 2005 that I've had enough of my daytime job. Well, actually, I decided that probably about a year earlier. But in 2005, I thought that I have an idea how to get out of it, which is to become a filmmaker. I had this idea for Paranormal Activity because my girlfriend and I moved to a new house. And that house was made out of wood, as are most houses in California. And at night, it kind of creaks. And, as the temperature changes, it expands and contracts. And she was really jumpy. Every little noise, she would be like, I think there's something in the house. I think there's a ghost or something. And I'm skeptic, so I don't believe in that kind of stuff. But we did have a few weird things that happened. Like we had like a loud bang in the middle of the night one time that came definitely from inside the house that really gave us a start. And we went looking around. We couldn't figure out what it was until a few days later. We went to do the laundry, and we had like this huge laundry detergent thing that we got from Costco. I don't know if you guys know here at Costco, basically they sell everything is like, ridiculously large. And somehow it fell off the shelf and bounced off the laundry machine and behind the door and made like this series of loud bangs. And she's like, see, I told you there's something here. So I was thinking, at that point in 2005, just about anyone could get a video camera. You could get a high quality, high definition camera. And I thought you could just let it record at night, set it up on a tripod. And if there is something, going around the house, if there's some unknown invisible entity walking around, moving things around while you're asleep and unaware of it, well, you'll have video, proof of that. And I was too lazy to ever do that. Like I wouldn't have time and patience to, watch footage of myself asleep for hours a day. But I thought, what if you actually did look at footage and you saw yourself asleep and some entity in your bedroom that you're unaware of moving things, like lurking around while you're totally vulnerable and unaware of it. And I thought that could be an interesting concept for a movie. And inspired by the story of Blair Witch Project, how, these kids from Florida that had no connection to Hollywood, they had no money, they just had an idea, they bought a video camera, ran around in the woods and made a movie that made $250 million. I'm like, well, who knows? I'm not saying that it's a sure thing, but if I give it a good shot, if I try real hard and, make the best version of the movie that I can, who knows? Maybe it's like buying a lottery ticket. You know you're not going to likely to win the lottery, but if you don't buy the ticket, you're definitely not going to win. So why not give it a shot?
So you were working, I think, for a video games company at the time?
Yeah, I was a video game programmer, which I like in theory, but specifically the team that I was a part of was very toxic. We were working long hours without, getting paid for overtime, very political, and I just really, really hated it. I'm like, I have to find a way to get out of that situation.
And that's in California?
Yeah, in San Diego.
Yeah, but you were born in Israel and moved to the States at what age?
19.
Okay. So you work in the video games industry and you have this idea. So in the past, you've told me that at that point in your life, you were getting a bit down, like work was depressing, and I think you started suffering from carpal tunnel syndrome, sort of, and the aches and pains, that kind of thing. Were you at a bit of a low ebb?
Yeah, absolutely. The carpal tunnel didn't help. I'm like in physical pain every day, and I have to keep using my hands to program and use basically I figured I'll never be able to heal if I don't get a break, if I keep having to, be on a computer keyboard every day. And so I'm popping ibuprofen like it's candy just to get through the day. I'm like, that's not a way to live. I hate my job. My hands are, in serious pain. And that's part of what inspired me to like do something kind of extreme, like, okay, I'll try to be a filmmaker and see what happens.
Awesome. So you make this movie and you make it at your house, right? And what year was this?
So, I started the pre-production preparation and all the research and everything in 2005.
Yeah.
I shot the movie in 2006. That was actually the easiest part. And then post-production, editing, visual effects, sound mix. That was almost another year into 2007.
And so what did people say when you told them, I'm making a movie, this is my plan, I'm going to use it to get out of my job and have a new life?
Well,
What do people think?
I'll go back a little bit because I didn't tell anyone. When I was a kid in Israel, when I was about 16, I decided that I'm moving to the United States. I'm going to start a software company. I'm going to write a graphics program, and that's my plan. And everyone made fun of me, like, "What? Who are you, a 16-year-old kid here in Israel? You're going to write a program in your apartment and compete with all the companies in America?" I'm like, yeah, why not? I have an idea. I know I can do it, so I'll give it a shot. And everyone told me that I'm crazy and I'm stupid and I'm throwing my life away because I quit high school to do that. And it worked out. But I also learned that there's no point in talking about things that you are about to do until you have done them. So why would I want to tell everyone that I'm shooting a movie and have them tell me, who are you? You have no experience. You didn't go to film school. You never shot anything before. Why do you think you can shoot a movie in your house and compete with companies in Hollywood? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't need to hear that. So I said, I'm going to make the movie. If it sucks, nobody even has to know that I made it except for the few people that were involved. And if it turned out okay, then, then I'll show the movie.
Very interesting. So did you actually write a program and start a software company in the States?
It was in Israel, back in Israel. Yeah. I wrote a program called the Photon Paint for the Commodore Amiga.
Huh.
Anyone old enough may remember that.
Yeah. Classic. All right, so you've made this film, but then what happens?
So then I tried to contact a lot of people in the industry, which I had no connections to, and I tried to contact lawyers, producers, agencies. Basically, no one wants to talk to you unless you come with a referral. Basically, you're a nobody. So I started submitting the movie to festivals and got rejected by all of them. Even like the San Diego Film Festival, I thought, oh, here's a movie made by San Diego filmmaker, quote unquote, and the movie was filmed in San Diego. Surely nothing. So that seemed like a dead end until I submitted to a film festival called Screamfest, which is a small festival but has a really good reputation, and it's actually well attended by people from the industry, and it specializes just in genre in horror movies. And I submitted the movie, it was accepted, and it played really, really well. We got great reviews and great buzz. We won a couple of awards, and that's what changed everything. Then I got, like the next day after we won the award, I got a call from CAA, which is the largest agency in Hollywood. And I signed up with them, and they signed up to represent the movie. And that's when, the ball started rolling for real.
And what does that mean? Like, Spielberg somehow got involved at some point.
Yes. The short version of a long story is that my agent sent the movie to a producer. The producer sent the movie to a friend of his that happens to be working at DreamWorks. She watched the movie. She loved it. She became obsessed. She showed it to her boss, who was the president of DreamWorks. He loved the movie, became obsessed. And at that point, Spielberg, I still think, knew nothing about it. And then we made a deal to buy the movie to do a remake. So the idea was that your movie is it's a cute concept that's done in a home video and looks like crap with no known actors.
And how much did you spend on it?
$15,000.
Okay, yeah.
US.
Yeah.
And so it's a cool idea, but let's do it for real. We'll let you be the director of the new remake.
Right.
We'll do it properly with good budget and with real actors.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, no, I don't want to, whatever we have now is like, lightning in the bottle. We captured it. It works mostly because it's unknown actors and because it's low budget. It's believable as a home video, and that's what makes it work.
And found video, like in
found footage,
project. You can't have stars in a found video concept, right?
Exactly. But the problem is that DreamWorks, they're not really a studio that acquires films. They don't do acquisitions. They only do original films. So I couldn't really sell it to them. So they said, well, we'll just have you make it again. And I kept saying, no. We got into Slam Dance, which takes place in Park City at the same time as Sundance. And I'm like, for sure. But then we had quite a bit of buzz going on. For sure, someone will buy it from us. Lionsgate, whoever, one of the smaller indies or whatever. And we came back empty-handed. Nobody wanted the movie. People were saying, oh, the movie is great. It's really scary, but we just don't know how to market it. You don't have any trailer moments. You don't have any famous stars. So we don't know what to do with it. So no thanks. So after that, when we didn't really have any other options, we said, okay, fine, we'll do the DreamWorks deal. We'll do the remake thing, but we'll do everything in our power to sabotage it. We'll make the deal, and then we'll try to make sure it doesn't happen, and they'll just take the movie as it is. So we put a thing in the contract that says that before we even get started on the remake, we have to have a test screening with a live audience, and everyone from DreamWorks, except for Spielberg, needs to be in the audience to see how the movie plays. And we had a screening, and the movie played great. The audience was screaming and reacting great. And right there at the lobby, after the movie ended, they were saying, okay, let's forget about the remake and just release this one. We need a new ending. They didn't like the ending we had, but basically that was the last time anyone talked about a remake. So finally I'm getting around to the Spielberg thing. So then when they said, okay, so now we are agreeing to release the movie, we need to get the okay of the big man. So they gave Spielberg a copy of the DVD, and then one of the most surreal moments of my life, I get a call from the president of DreamWorks, and he's saying, so Oren, I wanted to let you know that last night Steven Spielberg watched your movie, and he stopped the movie halfway through. And I'm thinking, oh, because he probably thought it was crap or something. And then he continues, because he got so scared, he couldn't keep watching it at night.
Hey.
So he finished watching it this morning, and he loved it, and we want to release it, and I'm thinking, like, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I can quit my day job.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until about a year and a half after that the movie actually really came out.
How fantastic. That is such a great story. Did you feel a combination of vindicated and triumphant? I mean, you must have felt totally high.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it felt awesome, but I also learned don't count your chickens before they hatch. So I'm like, until it actually is on the big screen, until it's actually playing and it's a success, I'm not celebrating. It's like just another step along the way.
And it was a success. It was a huge success. I know that it's sometimes a bit gross to talk about money, but it's a big part of the story. It made like $200 million at the box office, right?
Yeah, almost.
Your $15,000 film made $200 million. That must make it one of the most commercially successful films of all time in terms of the money that went into the project.
Yeah. If you're looking at like I don't know what's the formula, profit ratio or whatever, then yeah, it's probably up there.
Yeah. So then you're a hot property, right? Because you just made all this money for the studios and they would want more movies. What happened next?
Well, my main goal was to retire right after that. But
at what age?
I was, I guess, 39, 40 or
Fair
something
enough.
like that. There were a few complications. One is that the studio wanted to keep making sequels. And I'm like, okay, fine, you can keep making them, but I don't really want to be involved. So do whatever you want. But then it kept kind of sucking me back into helping more. I never directed.
Like Godfather 3.
Yeah,
They keep pulling me back in.
I tried to
pull me back in.
something like that. So they kept like guilting me into saying, Oren, it's still your franchise, even if you're not involved, you need to help it. So I became more involved than I wanted.
As a producer.
Just as a producer, yeah. And then I'm having lunch with Steven Spielberg again.
As you do.
In one of the most bizarre moments of my life. And he said,
sorry, to kind of interrupt so I can picture it totally. What are you having for lunch?
So here's like a private chef. So like the people that were setting up the lunch meeting, they're basically asking me like they send me a menu and what do I want. I think I had chicken.
Nice.
But they told me like they can make whatever you want.
Okay. So you're having lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he says at some point, there's nothing like Paranormal Activity on TV. We should do a show like that, something that's like very gritty and found footage, something that's like, a horror, because there's nothing else like it. I'm like, well, I don't have any specific ideas and I want to retire, but if Steven Spielberg says that he wants to do a TV show with me, I'll give it a thought.
Yeah.
And we came up with the idea later for a show that ended up on ABC called The River. It was sort of a cool concept. The actual execution of it wasn't really what I had in mind. So I was, again, kind of hands-off after it took off. And after that, I ended up making another movie that I wrote and produced and didn't direct, that a friend of mine sort of like conned me into doing, the Chernobyl movie. I told him, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was a movie that took place like in the aftermath of Chernobyl? He's like, oh yeah, we should do it. I'm like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Like, oh yeah, you'll just come up with the story and I'll do everything else. And cuts to like a year later, I'm in Serbia with the director, the whole crew, but it was actually one of the most fun projects that I was involved in.
And was that called the Chernobyl Diaries?
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge success. And then there were a couple of, then I kind of sort of like got the bug a little bit. I'm like, this is kind of fun. I can keep doing that. But I had like a string of unfortunate events with projects. There was one that I really loved that was with Warner Brothers, and we didn't fully crack the script. And the president of Warner Brothers really loved the project, but then the people above him changed and they said, we no longer want to do those mid-level, when we want to focus on, superhero movies, big stuff, big franchises and stuff like that. So they kind of lost interest. There was another movie that I really loved, and it ended up with really shady financiers. The whole thing fell apart. I had to take them to court and sue them, and I won, but it was very ugly and messy.
Right.
And then after that, I was involved with my next project, and my girlfriend got pregnant. And then I kind of took a step back. I'm like, wait a second, why am I still making movies? I should have been retiring. I should have retired, like years ago. Yeah. And I definitely don't want to be on location when she's pregnant, when the baby arrives. And I'm like, you know what? This is it. Now I'm officially for real retiring, and haven't worked since then.
All right. So how old were you then?
That was 2015-ish.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess it was 45.
Yep.
Or so.
Good time to retire. And then you end up here.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Well, so then we were expecting baby number 2, and we started thinking, do we really want to raise a family in the US? So this is around 2016. And I've been to New Zealand before, and just as a tourist, and I really loved it here, and as well as Australia. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and I'm like, we should check out New Zealand or Australia and see. Maybe I think we're gonna get along there pretty well. And we're starting having a discussion, New Zealand or Australia. I told her that both are really, really great. One big difference is that New Zealand doesn't have any deadly animals, no spiders, no snakes, no bears, no nothing. Australia has all of them.
Yeah.
And she's,
I don't think they have bears.
They don't have bears, but
they have koala bears.
Yes, they're not too deadly.
They're dangerous.
But they've got alligators instead of bears, and they've got they have alligators or crocs. I think they have crocodiles.
Crocodile Dundee. I'm going.
Yeah. Alligators is the US version.
Yeah.
And all the spiders and all the snakes and jellyfish and stuff.
Terrible place.
Yeah. So she says, okay, that's it. We're done with Australia. We're going to New Zealand. So we came to do a location scout in New Zealand to see how do we like, do we like the vibe and everything? And if we do, what city would we settle in? And I kind of ruled out the ones that had the recent history of earthquakes. No Christchurch, no Napier, even though that was like 100 years ago.
Recent history. Geologically speaking.
Exactly. You got something active. So, and we ruled out Auckland. Nothing against Auckland, but we kind of felt like we don't want to be in a big city. So something a little bit smaller. Ruled out Wellington because of the weather. And
they have earthquakes there too, of course.
And earthquakes. So I think the main places we were looking at was Tauranga. And I did a Google search, sunniest city in New Zealand.
Yep.
And Nelson popped up, and I actually never heard of Nelson before. When I was in New Zealand in 2004, I was only in the North Island. So I'm looking at Nelson, I'm like, wow, this place looks really cute, really pretty, great location, great weather. We should definitely check it out.
Yeah. So are you saying, Oren Peli, that if Nelson had not been the sunniest city or town in New Zealand that particular year, you might have moved to Whakatane?
Who knows? It would still probably be up there in the list of the sunniest cities.
Yeah, that's good. That's true. So you moved here how many years ago?
2018, I believe. Yeah, so about 4 or 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago.
And what do you think so far?
Pretty cool. We love it here. The weather is a bit too. The winters are a bit cold for me, and we knew that in advance. So the plan was always that when it's winter here, that's when we go to travel in the northern hemisphere. We're in summer, except then we had COVID lockdown. Then we had another COVID lockdown. Last year we had some stupid thing happening with our with INZ. with our immigration. It's all been sorted out. Now we're permanent residents, but last year they basically grounded us, so we couldn't leave the country. It was really annoying, so we're stuck here for what I think was like the second wettest winter in Nelson's history. And but hopefully this year we're really planning to, finally be gone for much of the winter. So then it's going to be all good.
So it sounds pretty good. And I remember you telling me once that I think you were talking to one of your children's teachers, and she told you that your daughter had said that her daddy, his job was drinking coffee.
No, yeah, I know. They're doing the thing of like, let's talk about what does your dad do for a living.
Yeah.
And everyone goes around the classroom and says, oh, my dad is an accountant, my dad is a plumber, whatever, my dad is so. And they get to her and she's like, well, he mostly just walks around the house and drinks coffee.
I love that.
Which is not that, I don't drink coffee all day long, but it's not that inaccurate.
But are you enjoying your retirement here in Nelson drinking coffee?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't, I don't have anything to complain about. The kids are happy here. They love their schools. We're happy here. People here are super nice. It's gorgeous. It feels very safe.
Yeah.
So, we...
And now you're permanent residents.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do you have friends in the States saying, look, COVID's sorted, democracy has been restored in the States, you should come home now?
No. The funny thing is that when we told everyone that we were going to move here, that was about 3 weeks before the 2016 elections. And everyone was telling us, what? You're moving to New Zealand? You're crazy. You don't know anyone there. Why would you move all the way across the world? You're nuts. And then Trump gets elected, and everyone's telling us, oh, you guys are so smart. Have a room ready for us. And then when COVID happens and New Zealand basically becomes like one of the few places on earth where life continues to function normally and the rest of the world is in total chaos, then our friends were telling us, oh, you guys are geniuses that, like, how did you know? So I think our friends are actually kind of mostly, happy for us that we ended up here.
Well, that's good, because there are a lot of people in the States. I love the States and I love Americans, but I know there are some people in the States who see this country as a bit of a socialist hellhole. Do you ever get that?
There might be, if that's what if that's their impression, then it's probably due to ignorance and really lack of understanding. I don't see too many people here, complaining about, man, I wish I had to pay, $1,000 a month for healthcare, and I wish that schools were. People here think that schools may be underfunded, but in the U.S. they're like starving them on purpose so that people go to private schools. So there's a lot of things that I think people in the U.S. Usually the people who might have never been out of the country and get their news from, Fox News, have a very bizarre. They think that socialism, like how you have in Northern Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, is like communism. They don't really understand or want to understand the difference.
But what do you think? Like you're watching your kids grow up in a country where we have a public health system, that is under strain, but for the most part is something we're pretty proud of. We have a public education system that's something of a leveler. It gives everyone some kind of equality of opportunity. We pay, compared to the States, reasonably high taxes in terms of income tax, GST. Then we have rates and everything else. But do you see benefits in that?
Yeah, first of all, just to be clear, the income taxes here are fairly comparable to the ones in the US.
Right.
The rates are far lower than the ones I was paying in California. Much, much lower. The GST is higher. So I think it all kind of averages out. Maybe gas, petrol prices are higher here, but you don't have to pay for health insurance. Yeah, you don't have to pay, like even when you pay, by the way, for health insurance, that doesn't mean that it's covered. Then you have the copays and you have the deductions. They still, reach into your pocket from 10 different directions. And yeah, health, education. Our friends that have kids that want to send them to like preschool, they pay usually $1,000 or to $1,500 a month per kid for the good ones. If you go to private school, which is probably what we would have done, because the public schools in the US are so horrible, and I'm not even talking about school shootings and stuff. Just the quality, they become test factories. They only care about making sure that you pass the federal tests, so that they don't lose funding. And so if you went to a private school, you'd pay easily 1,000, 1,500 a month per kid. So the taxes come in many different ways. And here it's like everything is so nice, so easy and simple when it comes to dealing with healthcare and public education. We really love it here.
I love hearing that, because sometimes, if you grow up here and spend all your time here, you lose sight of that. I always think it's amazing that we had 2 kids and we got this fantastic care. We had the whole midwife program, and then we had both our kids were born in hospital. We needed specialists with both kids. Both births had complications. And then we had after-birth care, and Tanya stayed in the hospital for a while and everything. And at the end of it, no one sent us a bill.
I know, it's amazing.
So good.
If you want to hear some stories, when we were in the US, my daughter fell and hit her head on the pavement. That was the first time it happened, so we're like in panic mode. I rushed her to the ER. We had really good health insurance back then, paying about $1,500 a month. So we got to the ER. We wait about 3.5 hours, I think, or 4 hours. Finally, not even a real doctor, like a medical student or something, like it's basically someone from med school, like a young, a girl comes by and she's like, did she faint after she hit her head? I'm like, no. Did she cry? Yes. Okay, then she's okay. You can go home. The bill was $3,500, but our insurance company paid most of it. We only had to pay about $300.
Right.
And here, like all kids stuff, even medication is like free. All that stuff kind of blew my mind, even dental for kids. So I think if people here ever complain about, taxes, they should take into account how much they would be paying if, they didn't have a public health system.
Now, speaking of blowing people's minds, you haven't just Paranormal Activity, the original, didn't just blow people's minds. There have now been 7 Paranormal Activity movies. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess there's potentially going to be more. Are you still somehow involved with those new ones?
Very peripherally. They'll send me the scripts and I'll make comments. Like when they made the very last one, I had very little I wasn't even on the set ever. And then they send me cuts of the film. I give them some comments. Maybe they listen, maybe they don't.
But it's still your intellectual property?
Yes. It's still considered. I still have rights on the franchise. So I'm still kind of like sort of involved whether I want to or not.
Okay.
But when it comes to the actual production, not too involved.
Right. Will there be a Paranormal Activity 8?
Not that I've heard of.
Okay.
No one told me. Although if they did and we haven't announced it yet, then I wouldn't be able to say anything.
Fair enough. Maybe they'll end up rebooting the whole thing, start from the beginning again.
Maybe, who knows? I haven't heard anything specific, so I will know.
And do you find now that you're retired, you do have moments when you think, actually, I do have this idea and I would like to make a movie right here in Nelson Whakatu?
Actually, sometimes I do. I have a few ideas. I said to myself, if I ever were to make a movie, I wouldn't do it through any studio system. I would do it totally on my own, like I did Paranormal Activity. I'll finance the whole thing on my own and do it my way. And like with the first one, if it sucks, it sucks. If it's good, it's good. But I know at least it's 100% mine, good or bad. And I have quite a few ideas. And then I think about how much work is actually involved in making a movie. And I'm like, nah, screw that. Who has the patience or the time, for making a movie?
But you got little kids right now.
Yeah.
So you're busy.
Yeah.
They won't always be little.
Yeah, maybe when, the last one goes off to uni.
Yeah.
And I'm 70 years old.
You won't be 70.
Almost.
Okay. Well, Woody Allen, Spielberg. How old's Spielberg?
He's in his 70s.
There you go. Yeah. And also you'd have an advantage because whatever you made here and using those techniques and things could be presented as from the creator of Paranormal Activity, which would pull an audience, right?
Maybe. Could be, if anyone still remembers it by then. But who knows, in 20 years, maybe you'll have like AI, writing and producing movies.
Maybe. What about this, if we just explore these ideas that you're not going to make right now a little bit, are they horror film ideas?
Mostly horror or thrillers.
Why? See, I struggle with horror. I love thrillers. But I remember being with a bunch of guys, we were probably 16, and we got a video cassette of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
We watched it, and it was disturbing and I really wish I hadn't seen it, especially at 16. Do you worry about the impact horror films have?
Not really. I mean, it's up to people to watch them or not watch them. So they're gonna get made no matter what. Some people are more sensitive to them than others, and then they shouldn't be watching them.
But were you always a kid who liked horror films?
No, I watched The Exorcist when I was 11. I don't know what my parents were thinking, letting me watch it, and it traumatized me so much that I didn't watch anything to do with supernatural or ghosts or demons for the rest of my childhood. Even when Ghostbusters came out,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, no thanks. I'm not watching anything to do with ghosts or hauntings or anything. So it totally left me traumatized. So maybe in a weird way, making horror movies is a way for me to kind of confront that. I don't know.
Maybe therapeutic. Do you have sometimes people will, Peter Jackson's a great example. He started off with splatter films, and then he started making, films with orcs and elves and things. And could you see yourself making a romantic comedy?
Possibly. I don't think that from a commercial business standpoint, that is maybe not straight away.
Uh-huh.
I know the Blair Witch people, the next thing they wanted to do was a romantic comedy right after Blair Witch. And basically at that point, every studio told them, we'll give you a blank check. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to do a romantic comedy. And they're like, oh, well, we didn't mean a romantic comedy. We meant like you can do anything you want. It can be action, horror, thriller. But nobody wants to see a romantic comedy from the makers of Blair Witch Project.
That's interesting. No, I get that. What about movies that you've seen lately that have impressed you?
I've seen most of the Academy Award nominees recently. Some of them were pretty good. I'm trying to think. I've seen so many. I liked The Fabelmans.
Is your mate Steve?
Well, not just because of that. After Sun.
Uh-huh.
That was a good one. I'm trying to think. Sometimes you see so many movies and you can't even sort them all out in your head.
What about this? I love movies too.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote movie reviews for a long time.
Okay.
I'm passionate about movies. But I today get more excited about TV shows than movies. I am more excited about the final season of Succession and Yellow Jackets, the next second season of Yellow Jackets. I'm more excited about those TV shows than I am just about any movie that's coming. It's the longest storytelling format, and the ability for character development and everything else. It's just so rich and so exciting now. And I just feel that movies have struggled to keep up.
I totally agree with you. If you watch a movie, you take a gamble. A lot of movies just suck, so you wasted 2 hours. If the movie is great, awesome, you watched a great movie for a couple hours. But if you find a good TV show, that's like entertainment for days. So I agree with you. And the quality, a lot of the talent has moved to the streamers, because they're given a lot more freedom. Netflix, Hulu, whatever, they're telling filmmakers, hey, we want you on board, so we'll let you do whatever you want without any studio notes, no creative interference. And the end result is that you end up with a better quality stuff.
Yeah. So could you do that, do you think? Maybe?
Possibly, if I had the time, the inclination, the idea,
okay,
the motivation.
Have you watched Yellow Jackets?
I've not yet. It's on my list.
You're going to love it.
I know it.
You're going to love it. Like I'm not a horror fan, but Yellow Jackets has definitely got a horror element, and it's just so good.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to watch it. I know it's good.
Cool. Hey, well, really nice to catch up with you. It's so cool that you've made Nelson Whakatu your home, and it's so great that you want to stick around, that you're enjoying it as much as you do.
I love being here, so...
And be sure to let us know if you decide to make a movie, because I'm sure there's lots of talented people in Nelson who'd love to get involved.
Yeah, although most likely I'll keep it on the down low. Only the people that will be involved in the movie will know about it until after it's done.
Will you tell me?
I'll give you a hint.
Thanks, man.
All right.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.